Have you ever separated from your entire friend group? If so, why? Yes, it started when I pushed them away mainly for the fact that I was going through a lot mentally and also didn't want them get dragged in the business I was getting myself into. When I was in college, I was friends with a group who was older than myself. A few of them graduated and then all of the rest graduated the year before I did. In my senior year, I had no friends left. The group never reunited again. I was always super cynical about friendships that happened in university, especially the ones where I realized that we spent time together because we had similar life schedules, etc. But for example, on summer break, we wouldn't really make an effort to see each other. I'm not sure about that. When I was at college, I would very rarely see my friends during the holidays. Most of them lived in all different parts of the country, so it seemed like a lot of effort. But I graduated 22 years ago and some of them are still my best friends now. So YMMV. I had a very tight friend group growing up and into adulthood. Lived together, partied together, never fought or had much drama at all. We thought it was always going to be this way, but as you get older, and one by one your friends find a good career, find a partner, and get married, and have kids or they move away, there's just not much time to do the things we used to do when we were younger. My best friend and I were inseparable for 20 years. Did everything together. He got married some years ago, had a kid, and is a dedicated husband and father. He's great at both. But now we hardly ever get to see each other and barely even talk or even text. Getting old sucks. Call him to say hello. I was there for every single one of them. When something happened to me, they didn't bother reaching out. Yep, I was in high school and decided to get my life together. I still kept hanging out with my friends. But one day I was sitting there on the couch as the friend sitting next to me cleared bowl after bowl from his barn. One friend was laying on the floor arc's-eared out of his ducking mind with a BT speaker on his chest, and my other friend was bandaging his hand. After doing a bunch of coke and punching the concrete wall again, I realized then that I barely even knew these people. Told them I had to take a massive shit and walked out of the front door. None of them probably even realized I was gone until the next morning. Did we hang out with the exact same kids? This is literally the way I spent the later years in high school, in a basement, getting high off of anything and everything with a bunch of people. It was fun. But that quickly gets old. Most everyone now is pretty straight-laced and actually keep in touch, which is nice. Sadly, we have lost 4 friends to oxycontin overdoses from high school to present time. Yes, they didn't respect the fact that I quit drinking and doing drugs and would constantly try to get me to join in. Good for you for putting your health first. Yep, went through the same thing. Was part of that scene for many years. Great friends. Even better times. Then I enrolled in college. I didn't quit drinking entirely, but dropped any mind-altering substances besides an occasional drink altogether. My GF of 2 years, and my circle of friends just couldn't understand that I didn't have the time outside of class to party every night. They were relentless. Finally made the decision to let the GF go, and when I did that, my whole friend group went with her. I basically had to start life all over again. Best decision I ever made. I was kicked out. Had a fallout with my galpal after I sort of stood up for myself from our toxic relationship. She took the whole friend group with her. 4 years they were the sole reason I come back to my hometown. Because I love seeing them. Organized dinners and stuff. Then poof, they just disappeared. Broke me 4 years. I'm sorry. Really? I know this all too well. Not limited to women either. I went through this as a teen boy with male best friend. Long story ahead. But this is still therapeutic to share. Even in my 30s. This stuff can be scarring. We were inseparable for years. And then he just kind of got bored of me. Which started with him treating me like shit in front of other friends. Which led to annoying high school things like fracturing our lunch table and taking half of it with him. A lot of little, hurtful things that added up. Worst was when he left for a summer and the group welcomed me back. I didn't realize at the time to fill his role. I had an amazing summer and it felt like things had healed. Even better, Beyond my wildest imagination. My former best friend returned home just ahead of our senior year, called me out of the blue to meet, said he'd had a spiritual awakening, do drugs one time LOL in the desert, and owed me all the apologies, wanted to be friends again. Within 3 ducking weeks, he was back to doing the same shit. Even meaner, really, and my friend group naturally gravitated toward him. I think my lowest was when Me 3 was released, and I'd made plans with that group to meet them at the theater after work. They hadn't decided on a showtime yet. I was so excited to see the movie, but no one in that group I called would pick up their phone. I had told my parents I was seeing a movie with them after work, and because I knew my parents were already worried about me having seen me lose this group of friends, I just sat in my car in a parking lot crying until enough time had passed to where my parents wouldn't question me having come home too early against my advertised plans. That was the first night I started acting self-destructively to force my mind to focus on anything else, which is another story. Found out later, of course. He had instructed that group to not answer their phones or invite me. My senior year was heck. Thankfully, I rebounded with a new social circle in college and have done well professionally out of college. But I still have major trust and self-worth issues with self-destructive tendencies. First year of high school, I pretty much desperately clung to my best friend from elementary school all through middle school, even though I always felt out of place in that friend group. We finally got to high school and I feel like there was an exact moment where I was just like, yeah, I don't belong here. I pretty much just stopped seeking to hang out with them, then spent a lot of time alone for a while. Became good friends with someone I was always just friendly with, and then became a part of a whole new friend group that was way more my scene. Yes, a girl who was friends with my wife and another friend of ours joined our friend group. Turns out she had a crush on my wife and tried to convince her to leave me. She became increasingly hostile towards me and accused me of being some sort of stalker, rapist, sexual predator, and convinced at least a couple of our friends of it. She's no longer with the group, but neither am I. Really, we both left after me, her, and my wife all had a really big fight. I was that one lone guy who tried to mesh into established cliques. I tried to fit in, but they never included me for shit. Was I really ever in those friend groups anyway? Edit. Wow. Thanks for the awards for the upvotes. Yep. One of them sexual harassed me, and the rest thought it wasn't a big deal, so she keep being in the group and I just had to step aside. There is so much drama. He likes her. She doesn't like him. She said this. They did that. How about we actually have an intellectual conversation for once? I'd rather be alone than be friends in that group again. Luckily I now have a very close tight-knit group of friends who I actually share similar interests with. I left the Mormon church. They are the ones who broke off contact. Shrug. They called me a slave, monkey, and LA emergency room behind my back, so. Yes, anytime I was doing something positive in my life they would tear it down. I've completely changed my life for the better, from my job to my relationships to my home and family. They are still doing the same stupid shit they were 10 years ago. Can't imagine why. For some reason, I never figured out why, my group of grade school friends dumped me just before my senior year of high school. We'd played on sports teams, hung out, sleepovers, the whole 9 yards from kindergarten up to that point. Then all of a sudden they formed new teams without me, stopped calling, etc. It was actually kind of hostile. The pack leader, who'd been my best friend for many years, suddenly actively disliked me. I learned later that he bottomed out on meth, but he remains very popular in our hometown to this day. I moved away in college and never looked back. Still bothers me, though it doesn't affect me too much all these years later, except when I visit my family. There is no contact with anyone from school at all. Makes me sad when I see on social media that many of them are still pretty close. They were rape apologists and wouldn't stop hanging out with my ex's rapist. Yeah, but it wasn't planned. The first time it was that they transferred to different schools, and the second time it was that they ended up in different classes than me. 2 different friend groups, I should add. Yes, I felt like I would not be missed if I was gone, and I was putting in a lot of my energy to the group and wasn't getting the same energy back. I left the group and didn't talk to them for 2 years. 4 of them went to the same college as me, and only then did they try to talk to me. Acted like the past 2 years never happened. Broke up with my ex. All our friend group took their side because they played the victim card, so I stepped away and went low contact. 0.18 mths later I got an apology from some of my former friends, but by then I had moved to the other side of the country and started life over again. Still see them on FB and occasionally chat, but nowhere near as close as what we used to be. Still get the odd random, "So you buried the hatchet yet?" "No, Clive. No, I haven't." I had this amazingly tight-knit group of friends in high school for about 1.5 years. I was dating the guy whose family hosted the gatherings. Eventually the entire family moved across country and no one else chose to pick up the regular hosting at their house. So it just sort of dissolved. My junior and senior year of high school, I was part of another tight-knit group of Magic the Gathering friends. We routinely met at my house, where my mom graciously bought pizza and soda for us all as we played our games. My mom died late in my senior year and I guess we all just kinda stopped hanging out after she passed away. I honestly don't remember what all happened. Yeah, I was running a social club and doing event planning with my SO, and an underage narcissist so cheats on me, breaks up with me over text, and she and the narcissist give an arts magazine permission to use some art I made for my now ex-so on their cover without letting me know. They then proceed to give an interview for them and tell them a bunch of lies, and then give them permission to Photoshop and modify my art. I had made a bunch of brass pins for the social club to give out for our 1-year anniversary. As I was handing them out, the narcissist stops me and says she and my ex had decided to sell them instead, and if I don't stop handing them out they were going to sue me for trademark infringement. It had our logo which we filed a trademark for. That's when I realized they were having planning meetings without me, and I effectively got demoted. I was like, "Duck you guys." The group fell apart 3 months later. The narcissist moved in with my ex. They argued incessantly, and I warned my so that she was making a mistake, because the narcissist was total drama queen. I was going through my first cons flare at the time, and had to stop drinking, which was what we did when we had our social club get-togethers, so that made leaving them easier, I guess. I focused on my health, got into remission, got a new job and moved on. It was hard. After spending years being friends with these people, I realized that my friends only tolerated me because of who I was dating. I began to realize that they were all really hateful toward me behind my back. Eventually they became hateful to my face. Finally I dumped them all, including my SO, because I realized that I prefer having mutual respect and support for my friends, which this friend group severely lacked. Because I realized I was getting blackout drunk every time I drank with them. Drink with other friends. Fine. These friends. Blackout. And it wasn't like I was slamming them back. Despite no physical indicators of being violated, I can't rule it out entirely, and that weighs heavy on a girl. I started to realize they weren't the people I thought they were, and I started to really see that until it got unbearable to even talk to them. Yeah, I did. Not under the best of circumstances either. I used to have a group I'd play Warhammer 40k weekly with. This was back in 5th edition, and I played Necron's pre-update. We were all learning the game, wanting to get good and go to tournaments. I learned the rules for the game pretty quickly, to a point that I could tell you which page number to go to if a rules question came up. They took a while to learn the rules and understand them. Well, whenever a question came up in game I was the one with the answer, bringing out the rule book and turning to the page with the rule in question, because I wanted us to learn and be ready for when we all decided to go to a tournament. Problem was, the main guy who would plan everything to gather everyone for the game night was having a problem with me doing that. Something I didn't know at the time. If I had known, I would have talked with him about it, try to fix the issue, and stop whatever it was I was doing that was making him upset. After one night, Everything came to a head when there was a rule issue, and I kept silent for once. No one took out the book or looked up the rule. Came to find out a few days later from a person in the group that the main guy who did all the planning and gatherings had an issue with me, accusing me of cheating via using loaded dice, even though the dice I used over 80% of the time were their dice. Accused me of cheating because of my arm is wheel be back rule, which allowed slaying Necrons to possibly come back if the roll was high enough, and being able to possibly roll failed rolls for that via Resurrection or Bore Monolith at the time. Calling me a cheat and coward because they very rarely won against me, because where they use the same strategy every time. I knew when to pull my units back and retreat to set up traps for them. Apparently I'm supposed to just have my units stand their ground and constantly charge, I guess. Even though warriors were useless in close combat and sure to lose and cost me game. And also thought I was trying to take the leadership role from him, amongst other things. When I tried talking to that friend to try and see if I can fix things with us, it just blew up. I distanced myself from that group and only talked to one person from there anymore. After that had happened, I came to learn from the one friend I still talk to that the whole situation created a schism, with half the group believing that my friend was overreacting to the whole situation and standing up for me. Even to this day, I still tell myself what happened, because that friend had just learned his fiance had cheated on him, broken up with her, and had to say bye to her 2 kids, who had just started calling him dad. I just happened to be the scapegoat for the frustration, hurt and anger he was feeling at the time. Something I wonder about, as the one friend I still talk to had told me that he continued doing the same thing I did, except they praised him and had no issue with him. Even though he would argue with them a lot, it messed with me for a long while. And even now I still have trouble with making friends because of that situation and my own worry about something like that happening again. Every single friendship group I've ever been in has always ended up with me either leaving them or them leaving me. I guess I'm a magnet for shitty friends.